In this topic, I'm going to talk to you about the characteristics that make up a user experience practitioner. Now, we like to call them a UXer, but at the same time, they're known by many different titles. Information architect, graphic designer, designer, experience architect, usability practitioner, human factors specialist, and also customer experience designer. So as you can see, the role of the title doesn't really matter. Having worked with these people, it's clear that we're all following the same methodology. Some of the key characteristics a UXer has include, obviously you need to communicate clearly about your research, about your design, and about your findings from your evaluation. Having an open mind. As a designer, you will often sit between the business and the user, so you need to make sure that you look at every perspective before you make a decision. It's important for you to understand the design and the technology. If you're designing for websites, it would be good if you understood how websites are put together and some of the limitations and opportunities that come with designing a website. And being a problem solver is key. End of the day, you're looking for problems, design problems, and your goal is to solve them. Also, putting the users first. You should always think of the user first and foremost before you actually put any designs to paper or make any decisions that will impact how they will use your product. Many people ask me how I got into user experience. Well, it was accidental. Most people tend to fall into user experience. However, there's a few things you could do. Considering it's multidisciplinary, you could consider marketing, web design, market research, anthropology, psychology, or some of the other disciplines I talked about earlier in the topic. The most important characteristics that I think a user experience practitioner should know and have is being flexible. For me, it's all about the soft skills, because often you'll find yourself in between the user and the business. And it's a balancing act. And as a practitioner, you'll always end up finding yourself being stretched and pulled on either side. What I mean by soft skills is the things to do with communication, understanding behaviours, rather than some of the harder skills like techniques. End of the day, techniques are easy to understand. However, if you can't communicate clearly or you can't rationalise your thoughts, you're going to struggle to be fitting into this middle position. As the discipline evolves, I'm seeing more and more that UX practitioners are starting to take on other roles, specifically around coding of websites, as well as doing the graphic or the visual design. But one thing you need to be aware of is that as a practitioner, you will sometimes be working alone, but at the same time, you may be working in bigger groups. So being able to work within the team is key. So in this topic, I've talked about some of the characteristics of a UX practitioner. Hopefully you have some idea of the sort of things you need, and hopefully you're already doing some of the things within your workforce that can allow you to transition into UX as a discipline. So this is the end of the module. We've covered quite a bit, so let's do a quick recap. So I've talked about user experience, what it is. I've talked about usability and user-centered design. I've talked about what affects design of an interface. I've highlighted the importance of knowing your users, their needs and business needs, and sometimes you have to balance both. We've also discussed where user experience fits within other disciplines and the overlap between them. And finally, I hope you have some idea of the characteristics of a user experience practitioner. Hope to see you in Module 2.